welcome to the September monthly wrap-up here at Veritas, where we go through our monthly topic. This month we spoke all around imposter syndrome. Of course, it was also Are You OK Day, so we spent a little bit of time talking about that as well. It was a terrific day and we spoke to over 25,000 people across the country through 25 different webinars held across the week, which included the day itself, the 9th of September. But for the majority of the month, we were talking about imposter syndrome, which is a really interesting subject because it's not a mental health disorder, but it is something that impacts a lot of us. And it impacts those of us that are really a little bit unsure about where we are, what our capacities are, what our capabilities are, and how we navigate that in the world that we operate in. So formally, imposter syndrome refers to the belief that you aren't as qualified, competent, intelligent as people think, leading to this constant state of dread and worry that you are going to be exposed or found out for the fraud or imposter that you are. As I mentioned before, is it a mental illness or disorder? No, it's not. It is not formally recognised by the DSM, which is the big book of guiding for psychologists and other mental health professionals, but it is real and it impacts up to 70% of us at some point throughout our lives. So what is it? Look, it shares the hallmarks of a lot of different things. It has a little bit of anxiety sprinkled in there, that state of dread. There's some self-esteem related components that make up imposter syndrome. Am I truly good enough? Am I truly worthy enough of the position I'm in or the opportunities that I have? And it's got some perfectionism rolled in there as well. But it itself is not a mental health disorder or illness. It is a combination of these sort of subclinical symptoms that really, at the end of the day, are driven by our own thoughts and attitudes towards ourselves and can impact our behaviours. So I want to challenge you all to not refer to it as a mental health issue or a mental health disorder, because it's not. And that would be spreading stigma and also spreading negative connotation around this challenge that we can all face at different times of our lives. Some of us are going to face it for days, weeks, months. Sometimes it's appropriate to have a little bit of imposter syndrome. If you're doing something pretty serious, pretty important, you're going to want a little bit of self-doubt in the back of there that's going to be switching you on and helping you pay attention to what you're doing. What you don't want it to be doing is when it becomes a significant motivator in the way that you behave and the tasks and projects that you take on. Now, I've already fallen into this trap myself a little bit today by referring to it mostly in the state of work. I've been using terms like projects, positions, all those sorts of things. But imposter syndrome is something that can impact us in various different parts of our lives. It can impact any part of your life that you deem important or that you may not be as certain about yourself in. So a lot of people can get it in social situations as well. Am I socially competent as others think, or as I should be as well? Or do I keep making a bit of a fool of myself in front of other people? It obviously happens in professional, as I meant. It can happen in sport as well, hobbies, wherever we see an importance or see ourselves wanting to be truly the best we can possibly be is where we might experience some level of imposter syndrome. The other thing I want to quickly go back on it with what I said was that up to 70% of us can experience this. So again, if you do feel as though you're having some imposter syndrome, worried about being exposed, worried whether you were good enough, uncertain about yourself, also challenge yourself to a portion of that is just part of being human as well. Yeah, part of worrying about where we're at. Are we on the right trajectory? Are we confident in what we're doing? Is normal. It's a part of a protective factor to help us not expose ourselves to too many setbacks or be excluded socially from the groups in which we operate, whether that be work, friends, family as well. That's where it can become an issue, because and where we can build it up so much internally, because it's that fear of rejection. If I fail and I'm exposed as a fraud, I will be booted out of my social network, or this social network, this group. Therefore, I am but myself. Therefore, I am at risk. We're pack animals. We feel safer in numbers. And that is where imposter syndrome can build itself up. So really, it's not a mental health issue or a mental health disorder. It is this feeling that we can all get and develop, and this mentality or attitude towards ourselves, which can then impact our behavior. If we don't tackle those thoughts and attitudes, if we let it fester for too long and we let it impact our behavior too long, it may predispose us to a mental health issue down the track. But of that 70% of us, not many of us are going to get there. So the way it would do that is through the lowering of the self-esteem, those heightened anxiousness symptoms and traits can lead us to change our behavior. We can start foregoing opportunities, excluding ourselves from things, limiting our world, and that is when some other issues can become apparent. We can start to get a bit of a diminished mood or start to develop a real anxiety disorder. When should we be addressing our imposter syndrome? Exactly like I just said then as well. When you start to see it impacting your behavior, or you start to feel like it impacts or is a present state of thinking in your head while you're engaged in that area in which you are experiencing that self-doubt. Yeah. So if it is taking up the majority of your thoughts while you're at work, that's when you might be addressing it. If you find that it is leading you to not put your hand up for certain projects or roles at work, that is when you need to be addressing it. Yeah. So when you start to see it really impacting either your behavior or putting that self-limitation on, that is when you really need to go, hey, I might need to address how I'm approaching this, my attitude, and start breaking down some of these self-beliefs and internal dialogue that I have. So how do you combat imposter syndrome? How do you do something about it? How do you work through it? How do you actually use it as an ally? So first part is going to war with the thoughts as well. Yep. So one part or one strategy is disrupting those thoughts and attitudes that you're having about yourself. So as humans, we are very, 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 very good at immediately assigning what we think to be a fact, rather than simply our opinion or perception of the situation. We can quickly turn, I'm not 100% sure about what I'm doing in this situation, to I'm going to be exposed as a fraud. And that being 100% fact. So when I say go to war with your thoughts, it's about developing consciousness and creating a space for you to think about your own thoughts. Yep. So challenge that attitude towards you being a fraud. One easy question to ask yourself is, what evidence do I have that I am underqualified? What evidence do I have that I am going to fail? Why am I seeing that as an inevitable when it is simply an opportunity? What other opportunities are there in this scenario? Because it's just as much as there is an opportunity to fail, there is an opportunity to succeed. But again, we're driven by an avoidance of negatives, so we're going to focus more on what happens if we fail and the likelihood of fail. So challenge your thoughts. Ask yourself to bring up the evidence that you're going to fail. Ask yourself to bring up the evidence that you might not fail, and create an even fight between the two as well. And then you have a choice of which one you want to be thinking about. Do you want to be thinking about the evidence that suggests you might fail, or the evidence and track record that suggests you're going to be okay and you've got a fair chance of succeeding as well? The other thing to do is also to externalize it. So if a friend of mine came up to me and asked me, or told me that they were having these thoughts and attitudes about themselves at work, at home, amongst friends, what would I tell them to do? What would I tell them about those thoughts? Would I be dismissing those thoughts? You're crazy. We love having you around. You're funny. You're terrific. In a social example. Or maybe a colleague. Think about all the times you have succeeded at these projects. And then treat yourself the same. So that's one. If you're not completely bogged down, if you're not completely snowed under by this group of thinking and attitude towards yourself, challenge the thoughts. Don't take them as fact. No one is smart enough, no one is experienced enough to have 100% factual, accurate thoughts. They can get out of sync. The other step is to make friends with failure as well. Challenge that perfectionism as well. There's highly likely to not be a single athlete out there who has won every single competition they've been in, every single game, every single race, every single fight. Mistakes and setbacks and losing are all part of the process of getting to where we need to be. And we need to make friends with failure, not a friend we want to meet every single day, but a friend with failure to access the brilliant learning opportunities that come from making mistakes and failures. If you are not making mistakes or learning on the job, amongst your friends, wherever it may be, you're not standing in the right room. You're not pushing yourself hard enough. You're not challenging yourself hard enough. And that is going to be more self-limiting than ever not making a mistake. Make friends with failure. When you think about the consequences of failure, think long and hard around what the true impact of that failure will be. Will this harbour bridge fall down? Is it fatal? Will someone lose their life if you fail? And if the answer is no to either of those things, then make sure you're bringing correct perspective to what failure or a setback in this situation might truly cost you and what you can learn from that to help you better perform next time. It's around developing a growth mindset in those places, not a fixed mindset. So a growth mindset that makes friends with failure and looks at how if we apply effort, we will keep moving and keep developing. Our skills are not set. Our skills are fluid. The more we practice them, the better we'll get. And that can lead you to reward yourself for effort as well, not just outcome. Yes, the scoreboard at the end of the day is what people are going to remember, and more times than not, you want to be on the right end of that ledger. But you need to make a space to recognize effort and recognize learnings to continue that growth journey as well. You are better off stuffing up now and learning than trying to have a perfect track record and not playing in the right league, whether that be in sport or occupationally as well. Learn to fail. I'm not going to give you all the Michael Jordan quotes or all the other Steve Jobs quotes around failure, but all of them acknowledge the need to fail in the process of becoming a champion or getting to where they want to be. So you need to make friends with that along the way. Yep. And also on that note, spend some time reflecting on when you have failed and what was the outcome and cost of that. Did people abandon you? Was it temporary? Has it significantly altered your life today for the negative? And if the answer to those things is no, then again, there's more permission right there to fail. To make space for that. That has been this month's monthly topic webinar wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to catching up with you in a month's time. Until then, stay safe and enjoy the next month. Thank you.